Hey friend, I'm gonna guess that if you've found yourself here in this conversation with me, that it is probably not the first time that you've thought about how to regulate your emotions. So let's just start off by taking a collective deep breath, me and you, in through the nose and out through the mouth. We've made it here. And here we're going to have a conversation that is going to be a little bit hard sometimes, but also extremely worth it and extremely expansive. I'm someone who has conversations with people that are passionate about becoming their best selves, self-improvement, reaching their highest potential in this lifetime, as well as being connected to their inner self, their intuition, and their spirit. So if you're listening to this, I'm going to guess that that is you. I'm also going to guess that you might have some shame around how long you've been trying to regulate your emotions or control your emotions or be less reactive, however you want to call it, and it's just not working. I know that I carried this shame with myself since early childhood on for literally decades, so many years. The shame of not being able to regulate your emotions or not feel reactive to a situation is so big that it actually created a shame-based identity for me, which made me feel so much more insecure, less trusting of myself, and completely lowered my self-esteem. The good thing about all of this is that when you learn how to regulate your emotions, you can increase your self-esteem, you can increase your confidence, you can increase your trust in yourself, and life can feel so much better. It really does. So I'm excited for us to hop into these topics today. There might even be some things that are really exciting or surprising for you, but we're going to dive into them together. So let's get into it. I'm someone who was in therapy for 20 years of my life. I had invested so much time, so much energy, and so much money into how to regulate my emotions, and this is why I felt so embarrassed that I still could not figure out how to do it. It wasn't until I actually left therapy and I started looking for other underlying causes that I could identify the root cause of my dysregulation. So one of the underlying causes that so many of us are experiencing and don't even realize is having an unhealthy diet. And I know that this is annoying to talk about because I'm sure that we can all kind of, when we think of the word unhealthy diet, we can think of some things that we would want to change in our lifestyle or things that we shouldn't be doing or shouldn't be eating. But I really want to express to you just how important it is to have a harmonized and balanced and healthy lifestyle if you want to have harmonized, balanced, and healthy emotions. These things go together. And so what a healthy lifestyle looks like can be different depending on the person. For me, that looks like prioritizing my sleep. It means getting a lot of red light therapy, doing a lot of grounding activities, doing lots and lots of spiritual practices, energy cleansing practices, making sure that I take a bath every single night and do a beautiful meditation in the bath. These are all parts of my healthy lifestyle. But if you were to look at my diet, there were so many phases that I went through to phase out unhealthy things in my diet. One of them being caffeine. Caffeine can greatly dysregulate the mind, the body, and the soul. Even if you like it, even if you feel like you need it, trust me, your body is going to operate in a completely different way without it, and it can actually be so expansive for you. So changing your relationship with caffeine can be really effective. While we're talking about caffeine, which is actually a psychoactive substance, let's talk about other psychoactive substances. In our Western world, it's become so common to ingest psychoactive substances in our everyday life, to have a glass of wine, to have a cup of coffee, to have a cigarette, to have a joint, to have any of these things. And all of these things change the way that our emotions, that the energy that runs through us, aka energy in motion is emotions, it changes the way that all of this is happening. And when your emotional pathways through your body are changing from a day-to-day basis, it's going to be so much harder to regulate your emotions or to at least have a consistent understanding of how you respond or react to different things. When you're feeling tired, when you're feeling hungry, when you're dehydrated, you might respond and react to the energy that's flowing within you in a completely different way than you would if you were feeling grounded and rested and completely healthy. So it's really important for you to feel as healthy as possible. And this doesn't just mean having a salad or having one good night's sleep. It means building exponential results from the small efforts that you do every single day. So that means that you should actually look at yourself, look in the mirror, look at your life, and identify what are the small changes that you could make that would make you feel way healthier. Maybe it's going on a walk and increasing the amount of steps that you get every single day. Maybe it's changing out the types of sheets that you have because you've been sleeping on non-organic polyester sheets and it's time for you to sleep on organic linen or cotton sheets and to allow your energetic field to be in a healthier environment while you sleep. So when you start to get passionate about health and finding the ways to put yourself in the healthiest possible environment, you are going to start to see exponential progress and growth in your emotional healing and regulation journey. Something that we should all know about is the gut-brain axis. Our gut microbiome is an environment within our body that is full of bacteria, quote unquote, good bacteria and bad bacteria, and it's a combination and a full ecosystem of all of these things. This ecosystem is determined by the things that we most commonly eat, as well as the emotions that we commonly have, the things that we tell ourselves, etc. So the brain is contributing to the gut ecosystem, as well as the gut contributing to the brain ecosystem. So these things are highly connected. And when we have things like parasites or an overgrowth of certain bacteria and our gut ecosystem is out of balance, you might find yourself more on certain ends of the spectrum when it comes to emotional dysregulation, feeling more depressed than usual, feeling more enraged or lethargic than usual. Everything that we eat and everything that we do contributes to this ecosystem. And if we want to feel healthy in our emotions, we need to create a healthy gut ecosystem. Creating a healthy gut ecosystem can sometimes mean avoiding highly processed foods, avoiding junk foods, definitely avoiding dyes and chemicals. In the US, we have a tolerance for more chemicals, preservatives, dyes, and unhealthy processed ingredients than any other country in the entire world. I've noticed that by avoiding junk food from the US specifically and only eating junk food that's in other countries, I've been able to elevate my ability to emotionally regulate in a completely new way. Think about the foods that we see all the time by the checkout stands and things like that, M&Ms, candies, chips, hot Cheetos. These foods have dyes, preservatives, and chemicals in them that change our gut microbiome and make it so that we are more likely to feel reactive rather than feel emotionally regulated in the future. When we go for these highly processed foods, we might feel full, but our body's actually starving from the nutrients that it actually needs. Our body needs healthy fats, it needs protein, it needs micronutrients and minerals in order to feel emotionally regulated. I had no idea that I was deficient in minerals and that this was one of the reasons that I was so dysregulated all the time. When I first had a mineral supplement, I could finally feel emotionally regulated more than I had ever had in my entire life. I literally felt like I had taken a drug, and all I had taken were trace minerals that my body was lacking, and I had no idea that I was deficient in these things. So maybe one of the reasons that you're lacking the ability to emotionally regulate could be a lack of vitamins or a lack of minerals. If you are lacking these things, it's important to take supplements, because within the US, if that's where you're watching from, we have farming practices in place that actually deplete our vegetables and our foods from the essential minerals and vitamins that they typically have. So it's really, really important if you're living in the US to take supplements and supplement your diet with vitamins, minerals, and everything that you could possibly need to feel like your absolute healthiest self. Now, another thing that has helped me so much in my ability to emotionally regulate is exercise. And I used to have exercise addiction because I used to be addicted to the endorphins that I would get from going on a run or doing a really, really intense exercise. And I absolutely loved it. So I've now healed my relationship with exercise completely, and I see exercise as a form of self-love. If you don't exercise regularly, this could be a good indicator for you to start. The more that we exercise on a regular basis, whether it be going on a walk 4 times a week or 5 times a week, or doing a Zumba class or dancing or something like that, the more we can actually regulate our emotions. It's actually scientifically proven through funded research that dance counteracts depression and emotional dysregulation. So the more that we dance and the more that we move our bodies and allow ourselves to actually move energy through our body in a different way, our emotions are not going to feel as big and as intense because energy is being moved through the body in so many different ways. And just a reminder here, your emotions are energy in motion. It is a surge of energy that the brain and the body is experiencing, and then we get to navigate it. We get to deal with it. Maybe we get reactive when we have that surge of energy, right? So up until now in this video, we've talked about some ways that you could actually minimize or lower that surge of energy so that it doesn't feel as reactive and as overwhelming when it hits you. The most common thing that I see online when talking about regulating emotions has to do with navigating difficult emotions, how we navigate emotional triggers, how we set boundaries, and ultimately how we can manage our inner peace. If you haven't already done exercises like this, it's really, really important to start journaling, to keep a list of the things that trigger you, to be objective about the emotional experiences that you have and what you are experiencing within your body, what memories and thoughts are coming up for you. All of this information is data about yourself. It's nothing that you have to feel shameful or embarrassed about. Your emotions are trying to give you information. They're giving you information about things that you could want help with, things that you could need to let go of, or maybe things that help you understand yourself and your values and what's important to you. Before we have a system for navigating our emotional triggers, we can often demonize our emotional triggers. And that means that when a difficult emotion comes up, we try to stuff it down or avoid it in some way. But the reason that it's so important to actually feel these emotional triggers and to have a system for navigating them is because these emotions are trying to guide you. They're guiding you into what your values are, into how to set boundaries, and specifically what boundaries you should be setting in order to feel like your absolute best self. And ultimately, these emotions are coming up to help you manage your inner peace. Emotions are not against you, they are not your enemy, they are helping you. You can kind of think of it like if you are on a carriage, or I'm not really sure what to call it, if you're sitting in a carriage and the horses in front of you are the emotions and they're leading you in a direction that you don't want to go. And so you're sitting on this carriage going 100 miles an hour in the wrong direction and you're like, oh my God, I hate horses, I hate carriages, I hate all of this. This is the worst situation ever. I can't imagine who would be here. This is so embarrassing, right? We create all of these stories. But another option is to literally just pick up the reins and to say, whoa, my emotions are taking me this direction. Let me steer them this direction. And that is the process of transmutation or alchemy, of being able to identify your emotions and identify where they are taking you and where you actually want to go. Your emotions are not the enemy unless you make them the enemy. If you notice yourself constantly feeling like you're on that carriage that's going in the wrong direction, then it might be a good time for you to practice some mindfulness practices. Mindfulness practices can include everything from meditation, EFT tapping, spiritual practices, energetic cleansing practices. There are just so many out there, and I post about a lot of them on my channel, so make sure that you subscribe and join our community so that you can learn more about mindfulness practices that can help you feel higher and higher levels of inner peace. The number one thing that has allowed me to reach higher levels of inner peace and emotional regulation every single week of my life, that means every single week, I know that I'm growing and that I'm in a different place than I was the week before. The thing that has allowed me to do that is honestly journaling. Every Sunday night, I have not skipped writing out my intentions for the week, exactly what I desire for myself for that week, what I'm experiencing that week. And I know that this can kind of seem like a little diary entry type of journal, but it's not like that at all. I use a system, I use a structure, I write and answer those same exact questions every single week, so I can really observe exactly how I've been changing from week to week and how my practices have been changing me. Now, if I were you listening to this conversation right here and right now, I would honestly be feeling so incredibly frustrated because I started this practice at 8 years old. I started meditating at 8 years old, navigating emotional triggers at 8 years old with professionals who had PhDs in mindfulness and how to regulate your nervous system and your emotions and things like that. I started this practice at such a young age, and I couldn't master it at 8 years old, 9, 10, 11. I could not master it well into adulthood, and it led me to continue to feel bad about myself, shameful, like I just couldn't understand things that other people could understand. But it also led me to constantly be seeking guidance from spiritual mentors, from coaches, from people who were possibly navigating these things in different ways. And I'm so grateful that I was not quenched by that meditation that I did at 8 years old. I'm so grateful that I would be frustrated at this point in the conversation because there's a whole other component that has been missing that I've never ever heard anyone talk about when it comes to how to regulate your emotions, or why we find ourselves in conflict with other people and why we find ourselves so dysregulated so often of the time. So let's talk about that right now. And I know this is going to sound pretty wacky, pretty out there, pretty woo-woo, but trust me, there is so much evidence surrounding all of the things that we're talking about here. And if this is the first time that you've had a conversation about these topics, allow your curiosity to guide you into just how incredible and deep this whole entire universe is when it comes to these topics. So what we're going to be talking about right here is past lives. Everything that we're experiencing in this lifetime is often a pattern that we have been living out or playing out since maybe hundreds of lifetimes ago or far in the past. And so often the people that we have conflict with, the people that just get under our skin and we can't really explain how or why or what to do about it, it's because it is a past life wound that is coming up now. So there's so many wounds that we can experience from this lifetime: our inner child wounds, our inner teen wounds, mother wound, father wound, guilt wound. There's so many wounds that we can experience as we grow up from the point that we're born into being an adult. Hopefully we're all adults here, having this conversation right now. But there's also a lot of wounds that are prior to that. These wounds can shape the way that we navigate life. They can shape the way that we feel triggered or the things that we feel triggered about, right? And I know that this can be kind of hard to believe or hard to understand, especially if this is the first time that you've ever talked about it. But I want you to know also that when we do a past life regression session and we're able to actually see that pinpoint cause of the wounds and patterning that we're experiencing in this lifetime, we are no longer triggered. I've experienced this hundreds and thousands of times. I've experienced over 300 past life regressions where I go exactly to the wound or the cause of the pattern that I'm experiencing in my current lifetime, and I can fully eliminate this wound. I can learn the wisdom that my soul needs to learn and completely shed all of that stress and fight and inner war that I once experienced trying to regulate my emotions and steer the horse in a different direction or whatever it was. It just became a situation where I could get up every single day, hop on my chariot, and it was going in the direction that I needed it to go. And if I found myself going in an opposite direction, I would do a past life regression. I would do some deep inner soul work to identify what those patterns are so that my chariot would automatically steer right back in the right direction, not only in the right direction, but actually being on a shortcut to achieving my goals. It's really so fascinating how reconnecting with ancient wisdom can allow us to launch into our most aligned and desired future. And that's why we're talking about this in the first place, right? We want to be able to regulate our emotions so that we can launch into our most aligned and peaceful and productive future. One of the easiest ways to do this is to connect to your intuition. I have some other videos on my channel that guide you through the exact steps that you need to take to do that. And I encourage you to explore ancient practices and explore spiritual practices. Explore whatever helps you feel connected to yourself, connected to nature, connected to your inner child, your higher self, because all of this connection is truly what creates emotional balance. The more connected we are to all of the parts of ourselves, you can kind of see like a web forming. And when an emotion comes and falls into this web, it doesn't rip the web apart anymore. It doesn't completely distort your inner reality. The web can hold that ball of emotion, and you can choose how you want to respond to whatever energy or emotion is flowing through you. So the main takeaway here is if you are struggling with regulating your emotions, it does not mean that you are too sensitive or too weak or that the world is too tough or any of the things that we've been told or that we've even been telling ourselves. We can feel so much more emotionally balanced when we take a holistic approach to our emotional health. If we're feeling uncomfortable emotions, it's so important to not blame ourselves and to look for the root causes, the subtle causes, the patterns that are underlying in our soul journey, as well as to eliminate the toxins that we're experiencing in our everyday environment and our everyday lifestyle so that you can feel like a healthier and more balanced human as a whole. I would love to hear your key takeaways, thoughts, and experiences. Please comment below anything that you would like me to know or any of our other viewers. Before you head out of here, don't forget to like, subscribe, and check out all of the amazing resources that I have for you down below.